In a recent report by Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index, or CPI, South Africa has been ranked at 72nd out of 180 countries in terms of perceived public sector corruption. As concerns grow over the integrity of government institutions, the report highlighted the May elections as an opportunity to launch anti-corruption campaigns for civil society to hold the country's leaders accountable. Activists are urged to hold leaders accountable, shining a light on the urgent need for reform and the fight against corruption. To speak more on this, let's now welcome Wayne Duvenage, Organizations Undoing Tax Abuses CEO. Wayne, thank you so much for your time and good afternoon to you. So this ranking essentially places South Africa firmly on the flawed democracies category. Let's get your reaction then to the report. I mean, coming in post the May 24 elections, especially given that it does indicate the country's decline over the past 5 years in terms of these perceived public sector corruption.
Yes, absolutely. Transparency International brings this report out annually, normally towards the end of the year. This is a little bit earlier, and we want to unpack it some more. But what it is showing is this trend that continues to be the case, that we are a country that is grappling with corruption. And it's not getting much better. You know, you'd think coming out of the Zondo Commission and the state capture reports that have been released that we would start getting on top of this problem, but we certainly aren't. And it is, comes down to this lack of accountability for public officials and rampant bribery and corruption and these criminal networks that continue to infiltrate many sectors of government. So it is a serious problem, and we have to do something about it.
And you mentioned the Zondo report. In fact, one of the things the report does highlight is the opportunity, that was presented by the May 29 elections to launch anti-corruption campaigns, it says, geared towards political parties and civil society, etc. What do you then, think stands out for you, in terms of the low-hanging fruit of gearing society to hold leaders to account? I mean, the report does start with saying perhaps the implementation of the recommendations in the Zondo Commission is a very good start.
It absolutely is. And, one of the recommendations there is that the government needs to do a lot more when it comes to protecting whistleblowers, because if whistleblowers feel a lot safer to give information to organizations like ourselves or to the authorities, then they can get on top of dealing with corruption. But that's not the case. There isn't enough protection. There isn't enough reward, and quite frankly, people often lose their jobs, and the authorities look away. So it boils down to accountability then, where we are. Civil society is doing as much as it can, but it can only go so far when it is calling for consequences for conduct that is either corrupt or grossly maladministered funds of government funds. And yet we see so often people are found guilty and just moved. We see people popping up in other parts of the country, having been found wanting in other areas of government. This is not sending the right message to the public. So you start losing faith in government, and that's where the index continues to show that there's a problem of corruption in the country. So we need accountability and we need transparency. Transparency, we always say, is the enemy of corruption. It is so difficult to get information that is rightfully ours as the public from many government departments, because we can see when you get information where the corruption's happening, and we just get the runaround. So there's a lot of work to do, but it rests in a political will at the highest levels of government, and then needs to permeate down into every department.
And I mean, whether we like this report or not, and its findings, of course, and its rating, concerns are growing over the integrity of government institutions. I mean, just today, we saw the Special Investigating Unit, painting a bleak picture following its probe into some of the municipalities, primarily in the Eastern Cape and the Northwest. Of course, they were reporting back to Scopa. I mean, in a country where we don't see a lot of successful criminal prosecutions, what should the possible outcome of these investigations by the SIU be, Wayne? Because you spoke a little bit about, just transparency. We know, of course, the Auditor General has been lamenting over the state of our municipalities and going into great detail, this investigation too, taking us through just some of the levels of corruption.
Yes, and it is sad because, taxes are paid at a national level and a local government level. Even province gets their taxes from the national fiscus. And it is at local government level where corruption is rampant and rife, because in these small municipalities, the political will is, or the administration is hijacked by the politicians and the councils. And we've seen even in desperate moves where places like Makanda have gone to court to have the council overturned. The court hears the evidence and rules to be overturned. And sadly, this was in the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape COGTA department runs to their defense of the council, not of the people. So we have our priorities all wrong. What we're calling for is we need to strengthen the criminal justice system. We've always said that, if you give, and we're not a fan for throwing money or people at the problem. It needs to be very structured with strategy that can help SARS, for instance, go after criminal networks, help the SIU, the Hawks, and the NPA. If we can get those criminal justice system entities to get additional funding, instead of money going to blue light brigades and VIP protection for ministers, I mean, it's absolutely crazy. We need that money to flow into the criminal justice system where effective oversight, effective accountability can be meted out. And I think we'll see for every billion rand you invest in that space properly, we'll get a 10 times return on that investment to the coffers of Treasury. And that starts the process of building hope, because we're now seeing accountability, and starts making corrupt-minded individuals not taking the chances that they are taking, because they know that they're not going to get caught. And that's where the impunity gives rise to more corruption.
And in fact, just on that, just talking about some of the findings, it says that the CPI also draws attention to the weakening justice system worldwide. Incidentally, South Africa ranking 56 out of 142 countries in that one. But Wayne, thank you so much for your time. That's where we have to end our conversation. Thank you so much, Wayne. Duvenage organization Undoing Tax Abuse. He is the CEO there.